For exclusive podcasts and more, sign up at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
This week's Law & Order Marathon winner is Samantha McCoy of Erie, Pennsylvania. Samantha will get a marathon decal showing she watched 26.2 hours of her favorite crime show. To be next week's winner, sign up at lawandorderpodcast.com.
I'm Kevin Flynn with Rebecca Lavoie and Sarah Marshall, and these are their stories.
You think you know who did it, but you don't know who did it. Law and order, law and order, law and order. It's no ordinary police procedural, baby. It's the FNOG of police procedurals, baby. Law and order, law and order, law and order, law and order. These are their stories, these are their stories.
Welcome to These Are Their Stories, the podcast about network TV's most enduring crime franchise and the real-life cases that inspired their shows. I'm Kevin Flynn. Each podcast will break down an episode from either Criminal Intent, SVU, or Original Recipe. And today we're looking at the mothership Law & Order, Season 6, Episode 4, Jeopardy.
If he bribed the judge, he can't hide behind double jeopardy.
The Constitution says he can.
I don't think the Constitution protects rigged trials.
Joining me to do just that is true crime author and host of Crime Writers On and Netflix's You Can't Make This Up podcasts, Rebecca Lavoie. Hello, Rebecca.
Thanks for having me back, Kevin.
And rounding out our panel is our special guest from the You're Wrong About podcast. It's Sarah Marshall. Hello, Sarah.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here in the Law and Order.
You're Wrong About is a chart-topping podcast. You realize you're getting the short end of the stick here, right?
No, I'm not, because I get to talk about Law and Order with equally enthusiastic conversational partners, and that's all I want in life.
Oh, that's good. I thought you were going to fire your publicist when this was over, so she's going to be happy. She still has a job. So look, you examined scandals from the near past and discuss how the media got it wrong. So let me ask you this. Is Serena Sutherland really a lesbian?
I mean, she said she was, so I guess so. And she just, I just wish that they had done a Kincaid and McCoy type thing with her. And, there were so many under the radar flirtations throughout the show that the audience could pick up on. I wish we could have seen that with her.
And another
woman, to my knowledge,
yeah.
wasn't there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I think, if anything, they sort of missed an opportunity to actually have a representative character as opposed to somebody who's going out the door and said, surprise!
They did nothing with her.
They did really nothing.
They did literally nothing with her at all. They didn't have her have anything with anybody other than very wooden conversations, which is, I believe, why she exited the show, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they knew what to do with her.
Yeah.
They knew how to get rid of her.
Well, did they? That's the question.
Maybe they did it. So, Sarah, of all the franchises, which two cops are your favorite detective team?
Favorite Law and Order detective team.
I was just having a conversation with a friend earlier today about how people describing Chris Noth assaulting them has been especially depressing for us because I spent 20 years having a crush on Chris Noth and now I have to rescind that. So I don't know. I feel like I can't say Logan anymore. I have to pick a new one. I gotta say, I think Briscoe and Curtis is such a classic pairing, and I was really enjoying and thinking about how in season 6, which is the season we're watching an episode from, they did so many computer plots.
Yes.
Where Lenny was like, I don't understand computers, but I think they're a big deal. And Curtis is like, step aside, old man. Let me insert this floppy disk.
Watch out, Boomer. It's time for Gen X to take over this squad. And Sarah, who's your favorite prosecutorial team?
Favorite Law and Order district attorney prosecutorial team.
I mean, these are really nostalgia answers, but okay. I was in 8th grade, and this says so much about me, a Kincaid and McCoy shipper. I was very invested in this pairing, and I watch it now, and I'm like, this is wildly inappropriate workplace behavior. I cannot believe that we were lionizing this, but they're still my favorite. It's a nostalgia thing. I guess I can't move on.
You're not wrong about that. Now let's take a look at the first half of this episode. Law & Order Season 6, Episode 4, Jeopardy. Oh no, blue balls on the elevator.
Oh, no.
Two amorous office workers are having their max session interrupted by the sound of gunfire. 3 people at a small magazine have been shot, among them the editor, Eddie Nicodos.
CSU checked the fire door?
Yeah, they found some powder residue on the handle and a couple of dozen prints, mostly smudged, mostly from the Vicks and one from the kid in the John.
Popular door.
Yeah, it leads to the side street, but it's not wired up to an alarm.
Well, somebody who's been there before would know that.
Eddie started the tech magazine instead of going into the family business. Nicodos Foods distributor is run by his brother Peter, and Elaine, the family matriarch, fronted Eddie money for the magazine startup costs. Briscoe and Curtis learned the publication was being sued over a bad review of a video game, and the plaintiff is seeking serious monetary concessions from both the magazine and Nicodos Foods. In video depositions, it's clear that Peter is pissed Eddie has gotten them into this mess. The detectives learned that after a memorial service for the Nicodos patriarch, Peter abruptly left the dinner just before Eddie was killed. Plus, the handgun Peter's secretary keeps in her drawer was stolen. Lenny and Ray are looking for the blue suit he wore the night of the shooting. They check out a shell company run by Peter, which just turns out to be the penthouse of a kept woman. There they find the blue suit covered in cat hair, similar to that on the other victim. Briscoe and Curtis put the cuffs on him just before he can escape to the opera. So, not everything aged well in this episode. First off, we get to see some over-the-clothes stuff with Gil and Cindy when their makeout session is interrupted.
Gil will be home in half an hour.
Come on, Sin. They did it in Fatal Attraction.
Sure, with stunt doubles.
And then Gil takes out of his pocket this giant 1996 cell phone. Is she supposed to call the police or throw that at them?
Weren't they married or together? Because they said they were going home.
I think you're supposed to imply you're going to somebody else's. It's supposed to be secret.
Why? These interviews. I don't know, Sarah. Didn't you get the impression they were married? Because she's like, if we're just going to be home in half an hour, and he was like doing some fantasy thing in the elevator. I'm like, why would you guys get fired if you're together? I couldn't figure it out.
That's why. That's why
in the 90s you couldn't have sex in an elevator. It was a long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, you can pull that little stop button on the elevator and keep it there. Yeah. And you just got to hope the bell doesn't ring.
Yeah. And they were playing at their Fatal Attraction fantasy is what he said, right?
I love that reference because I was like, that movie came out 9 years before this episode. They really couldn't think of anything more recent.
So we're also like 4 episodes into the Ray Curtis era. And to demonstrate that he knows his stuff, Briscoe learns that everything he needs, Curtis has already asked for. And then when he's late, Curtis says, hey.
Yeah, I paged you 3 times.
I paged you. Again, he's like, well, I don't have a giant cell phone in my pocket to answer the page. Plus, this is how this little magazine operated on such a small staff. Again, 1996. Most of the articles were submitted by fax.
Yes.
Once it rolled up on the floor, they'd flatten it out and they'd put it in the magazine.
Yes. I was very surprised to see how the same an open concept, quote, cool startup looked then as it looks now. I mean, it was just like a big open space with like some toys on a desk.
Yeah.
Nobody there.
Yeah. Sarah, no rock wall, no private chef.
Well, it was late in the evening. We don't know who might have been there otherwise. I wrote down, I just am in love with the language that people use on the show to talk about technology around this time. And I wrote down, I don't know I bet you guys have favorites, but my favorite technology moment was when a waitress said of a suspect of the moment.
What time did Johnny take off?
Just before 9. He said he had a date with some girl on his computer. So I asked him, what is the thrill in that?
He said he had a date with some girl on his computer.
Yeah, and then the response was...
I'm sure he types fast with one hand.
By the way, nowadays, everybody can type with one hand because they need the other one to drive.
That's so true.
Ray is talking to the lady at the counter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Briscoe is sitting at a table, like finishing a sandwich, right? How did this play out? They go to the diner. Briscoe's like, I'm going to go sit here and order, and you're going to wait till I get served before you are allowed to go talk to anyone.
That sounds about right. Yeah. I bet he was like, slow down, Ray. This is a marathon, not a sprint.
He's like, we're doing this after my lunch break because we're not going to get a hot tip and then I can't stay for a sandwich. Ignorance is lunch.
Well, and I think in maybe a slightly later episode, but around this time, we have to emphasize the difference in their personalities. We show Briscoe and Curtis stopping in a restaurant where Lenny's like, order the special. This guy gives me a free special all the time because I did some police thing for him one time.
The waiter's got a kid. A couple of years ago, 2 jamokes put a piece in his face. I popped him. So, every once in a while, he slips me a special.
Well, LCCB, we call that a bribe.
And Curtis is like, no, that's unethical. So I assume Lenny just has like 30 to 50 restaurants where he just gets to eat free breakfast, and this is one of them canonically.
That's how he gets tickets to the Knicks. Yeah, very early Briscoe there was sort of a implied maybe he's a little dirty, maybe he does things, and by then years later we know he's saintly to the rest of us. He never popped anybody for no reason.
That's how we named our dog Briscoe.
Yeah. The one good cop in New York.
Allegedly.
He just wants a free breakfast.
Who doesn't? All right, let's take a look at our cast for a minute. We have a couple of Hey, It's That guys.
Hey, it's that guy.
Can you tell me who is the rich murder suspect, Peter Nikidos, who that is?
My grandfather built this firm. I take seriously my duty to protect the family's interests. I'm not going to sit back, let some little shyster lead us over a computer game.
Yes.
You know.
That's Peter Frechette, who only plays guys named Peter.
Okay.
Apparently. That's like, I think he's one of those.
Tony Danza.
He's one of those actors who are just afraid he won't respond if he doesn't have a character that's also his name. By the way, I only know his name randomly because it's like one of those names that pops up in credits and it's like, oh, it's that guy again. So you have to know it's that guy because he's just in things. I don't know what he is in. I just know that I have seen him in things, which is a classic, hey, it's that guy definition.
Okay,
right?
Well, let me fill you in because this is what I do.
Okay.
Peter Frechette, Emmy nominee for his role as an HIV-positive character on 30-something. When you think back and now, they're all 70-something. But
People never talk about 30-something, but wasn't it? There was it was all anyone could talk about for a while, right?
Yes.
Yeah. He is best known, though, as George from the TV show Profiler. He made his film debut in Grease 2 as Louis DiMucci.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was one of the T-Bones. I mean, T-Birds. T-Birds. He was always ready to, quote, slide into home base. Do you remember any of the songs, Sarah, from Grease 2?
I have never seen Grease 2, but I should, right?
Rebecca, you must.
Wasn't Grease 2
Reproduction. No.
Wasn't it the roles reversed? Like the guy was from Australia?
Yes.
That's all I remember about it.
Yes.
That's literally.
It's like, you know that you don't have to have someone from Australia, right? Like, I think it's great.
It was Sandy's cousin who decided to also come. And Michelle Pfeiffer was the ingenue. Yes.
The one who made him change for her.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Hey, what's the name of the actor playing Judge Edgar Hines?
Mr. McCoy. Lucky I'm not sanctioning you for discovery violations.
That is the late Louis Zorich. He played Paul Reiser's dad on Mad About You.
Oh.
He left behind his wife of 56 years, Academy Award winner Olympia Dukakis.
Oh,
it's okay. She's also dead now,
yes.
so she's not sad.
God, now I can't remember who's died recently.
You know what's funny is you can actually rent her old house on VRBO.
Olivia Dukakis' house?
We actually, Olympia
and Louis
Dukakis.
Zorich, yeah.
We actually saw it. What's that island where it's like half French, half Dutch? St. Martin.
Yeah.
You can actually VRBO her old house. Fun fact.
Do the kids need the money?
No, but it's not that expensive. It's really amazing.
By the way, did you catch who's playing Lab Tech Chung? By the way, just the last name. Didn't give him a first name. Chung.
Mm-hmm. Nope.
Well, the cat gets around. I pulled similar cat hairs off the same victim who had the fibers.
No? Mm-hmm. Oh, well, that's Ken Luong. You'll remember him from Lost as Miles Strom.
I don't.
Or Maelstrom, as J.J. Abrams thought was clever to call him. You don't remember Miles from Lost?
Not really.
He arrived on the boat looking for Ben, not Penny's boat, as you remember Charlie saying.
Yep.
Now, okay, well, he had a cameo in The Force Awakens and X-Men, Last Stand. He's credited as playing Omega Kid, but his character was actually Quill, so IMDb, you're wrong about. Jesus. How about the other crime scene tech, the guy from the beginning, who walked Briscoe through the crime scene?
Body count's 3. We found 4 shells, 9mm. As far as we can tell, all the Vicks worked here.
He looked like Bill Cosby who'd been living a good life. No? No. That's David Fontino, 12 Law & Order Universe appearances. Rebecca will remember him as Lieutenant Grant on Search for Tomorrow.
Oh, I didn't watch Search for Tomorrow.
And Dr. Grant on Guiding Light.
Didn't watch Guiding Light.
Oh, my God. You're always complaining about the soap opera
The
people.
only soap references that I don't know are the ones Santa Barbara, Guiding Light, and Search for Tomorrow. Sorry, never watched those. Any other ones I would have been able to do. Sorry.
Sarah knew them all.
Of course, somewhere in a part of my brain I can't access yet.
We have, Hey, It's That Girl.
Hey, it's that girl.
Can you tell us who's playing Rich Lady Elaine Nicodos?
Eddie couldn't be there. I told him it was all right. He had a deadline at the magazine.
That's the late Seda Thompson, Emmy winner for the 1970s drama Family with Christy McNichol.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, look, in both 1976 and 1978, she was nominated in 2 different categories. Same year in the Emmys. Tony Award, 3 Golden Globe nominations, but who can forget her appearance on the special 2-part episode of The Love Boat, in which she plays a woman who got out of jail after 20 years and hoped to be reunited with her daughter, played by Melissa Sue Anderson.
Oh, God, Melissa Sue Anderson was so busy.
Yes.
Yeah, she had to put time off for a 2-part episode of Love Boat. Yeah.
Yes. Well, she got to play a character who could see.
So when they went to Spain in that episode, she got to play a character you could see.
It was very exciting.
You can finally make eye contact with another.
Yes.
That would be a luxury.
We have a bunch of repeat offenders.
Repeat offender.
Wally Dunn is attorney Oldham.
That review damaged my client's business reputation.
He was in the Delhi Massacre episode Tragedy on Rye. There's Sean Elliott again as Judge Rivera.
The motion to dismiss is denied, and the charges will stand.
He got all teary-eyed, as the rest of us did, as Dennis O'Hare has his courtroom breakdown in Pro Se. We also have, from Showtime's Billions, Jeffrey DeMunn as Attorney Rothenberger.
Anybody ever tell you you're a sore loser, McCoy?
We talked to him as he was Alex Cabot's short-lived boss on SVU for like a hot minute. But are you ready to talk about seeing somebody before they were famous?
Sure.
Before they were famous.
Did anyone recognize the corpse of Eddie Nicodos?
No, who was it?
You want to sue me? Go right ahead. The magazine's judgment proof.
Well, get ready to know him. That dead body was Jeffrey Donovan, formerly of Burn Notice. He's about to star as Detective Frank Cosgrove on season 21 of Law & Order alongside Anthony Anderson.
Talk about before they were famous, like right now.
Are they bringing back Law & Order?
You did not know that?
I didn't know that. I just have let go, of the present day Law & Order situation. I had no idea. This is wow. See,
Set your DVR for February 24th on NBC.
Oh my gosh.
You'll see also Sam Waterston will be back, and Cameron Manheim is in it. It seems like a really interesting cast.
And
Anthony Anderson is back.
Sam Waterston has got to be at least 80 years old. I'm so proud of him for coming back. Wow.
He's really going to Ruth Bader Ginsburg that role, right?
Thank God I have something to believe in again. That's all I can say.
So Jeffrey Donovan, he's from the town of Amesbury, Massachusetts.
Oh.
From around here, he's a Sox fan, and his Twitter handle is @WickedPissa JT. It's like he's famous. Like, he could change it now, right? Wicked Pissa.
Wicked Pissa, Wolf Universe.
Yeah. Lastly, do you know the actress who was playing open-mouth, no-tongue kisser Cindy in the elevator?
No. We'll need new jobs if we get caught.
She looked so familiar, but I couldn't place her. Who was that?
That's Diana Henry, 5 Law & Order appearances. She's been getting steady work over the last 14 seasons of ABC's Moral Dilemma Candid Camera series, What Would You Do?
Never heard
one. Oh, she gets like in a situation like with undercover actors and cameras.
Like she yells at her kid, like in a donut shop, and see if anyone will intervene.
Yeah. Here are some of her highlights. She played Bad Mommy in the episode Baby Locked in Hot Car.
Oh, God.
Oh, boy.
Upset shopper in Mother's Shame Gender Toy Choices Made by Their Children.
Oh, my goodness.
Man, I'm so glad that it wasn't you in that.
Oh, God.
She was also a bystander in Son Berates Gay Father.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, it's supposed to, capture. What would you do?
Oh, it's an intense show, though. I was thinking it would be like, what would you do if you saw a chipmunk riding a little skateboard?
Okay, so I know I'm not supposed to think too deeply about these things, but I can't imagine a bad review of the video game Thrasher in the tiny Gen X computer magazine Bite Size is an 8-figure lawsuit. By the way, that video game was on a CD-ROM. Again, thanks 1996.
I don't know.
That's a big lawsuit.
8 figures? What is that like?
That's like $10 million. I mean, how much did Myst make? That's my question.
I mean, with inflation, that's like election fraud slander lawsuit money.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know where that guy's career could have gone had it not been for that one bad review.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
That's true. He could be making League of Legends.
Yeah.
Or Candy Crush.
Yes, you never know. Or the Property Brothers game for my iPhone.
Or that one where grandma is a murderer, but really you're just matching trowels.
Oh, Merge Mansion. The poor girl gets stood up at the altar. Like the ad for the video game is incredible. This story. And then grandma calls and she's taken away by the police, but she's written on the palm of her hand, "He is alive."
All
What
I
the
want
fuck?
is just this is what I want. I want an HBO adaptation of the Merge Mansion ads.
Yes.
Yeah. The one that's the worst, though, I think, is Lily's Garden, because it's like she
weird.
comes home and like she finds her boyfriend in bed with somebody else, or she gets she gets a pregnancy test and the guy leaves her. This is all in an ad
Where are
for
you
a video
seeing these
game
ads?
where they get put in other video games.
Oh, so you're seeing them when you're playing games.
Yeah.
I get it now. I get it. So they're trying to get you where you are.
Yeah. And I'm now doing it on a CD-ROM.
Okay.
So let's talk about the forensic evidence. They're looking for the clothes that Peter wore that night. The guy is a millionaire with a walk-in closet, but he has one blue suit.
And it's not even the right suit. It's not the one. It's a tropical wool. It's not the right wool. There's no evidence in this case. The cat hair may match. The suit doesn't match. I don't understand why they arrest this guy. Except for the fact that he's sus as hell, which he is, by the way.
Sarah, I'm going to explain something as far as the way men purchase their wardrobe.
Yeah.
They go get their first suit, they buy a blue suit. When they purchase their second suit, they get a gray suit. When they purchase their third suit, they buy another blue suit. It's not like we're going to taste the rainbow and get everything and then come back to a second blue suit.
After a funeral, you buy a black suit, right?
Yeah.
It's a very muted rainbow.
And not for the first time, and I'm sure not for the last. Briscoe and Curtis arrest a man in a tuxedo who was running late for the opera.
Captain's wait. We're going to be late for the next.
Don't worry, it'll still be there 25 years from now.
Peter Nicodos, you're under arrest for the murder of Edward Nicodos. You have the right to remain silent.
They love doing that. It's their favorite.
Oh, yeah. Look, as you know, Sarah, in the Greevy and Soretta days, Law & Order was very blue-collar. It was street crime focused. It became a better show when it shifted to white-collar criminals and murderous millionaires. Sarah, am I wrong about?
Are you wrong about that opinion? No, I think you're very right. I one of the things I was thinking about watching this is like I have a complicated relationship to my having grown up loving Law and Order, but one of the things I stand by as positive that it did is be like, a lot of rich people are very scary.
Yes.
Yeah.
They kill their horses. They murder people.
Oh, my God. The horse episode.
Oh, yeah. Because like white men, he couldn't jump.
Exactly.
Mr. Wickets. I do find this episode interesting as one of the ones where, as the audience, you really just have to trust that we've indicted the right guy. Because we're not shown why this is true. We're just like, yeah, it totally was that guy. Yep, get him, do it. I believe in you.
Yeah, I mean, we worry about that now, but remember, this is back in the age of CD-ROMs and fax machines. We didn't really care if they got the right guy because it would all work out in the end.
Yeah, but didn't you feel like the cat hair test results were kind of like Chekhov's gun? Because the guy says, like, I'll get those back for you in a while. And
in a couple weeks.
Exactly. And it just feels like that's looming. The cat hair results are because the suit wasn't right.
Well, he had like dial-up internet service, so that's why it took so long. By the way, he's like, I'm heading to the Met. What, in black tie? It's obviously 3 p.m. Sarah, that should be morning dressed. Waistcoat, sponge bag trousers, braces, and a white tie. All right, now let's take a look at the second half of this episode. Peter Nicholas's lawyer is aggressively seeking to exclude evidence. While his arguments are thin, Judge Edgar Hines is receptive to the defense.
Her observations aren't hearsay. She can testify that Peter Nicholas was angry at his brother that night, and according to her, angrier than she'd ever seen him before.
Under extraordinary conditions, Your Honor, he was angry at his brother for not attending their father's memorial. And this will be totally misconstrued by a jury.
Yeah, I have to agree. Under the circumstances, the prejudicial effect of Miss Gaston's testimony will clearly outweigh its probative value.
The prosecution's case was already floundering when the defense objected to the recently produced analysis of the cat hair evidence. Hines excludes it. Later, when the defense moves to dismiss the case due to lack of evidence, Hines again stuns McCoy and Kincaid by letting Peter walk. Schiff has a drink with his old friend the judge when he learns of his pending divorce and financial trouble. And because Hines suspiciously changed his long practices on admitting evidence, Schiff asks McCoy to look into the judge and why he requested the Nikidos case. Claire finds out a bank gave Hines a sweetheart loan he clearly didn't qualify for. The president says Elaine Nikidos threatened to pull her business unless the judge got the money. Schiff kicks everyone out of the interrogation room to rip his old friend a new one, tell him he's going to jail. Elaine Nikidos admits to Jack she arranged the loan, but says they can't charge Peter now because of double jeopardy. McCoy says, fuck that noise. He argues in court that because the judge was paid off, Peter's liberty was never really in jeopardy, so that constitutional protection doesn't apply. Peter's lawyer dares McCoy to proceed and face a flood of appeals. Jack threatens to seek the maximum sentence for his elderly mother, unless he takes an offer of 25 years. So to celebrate, Jack, Claire, and Adam pour each other scotches. But who could that be calling to interrupt all this fun? Schiff gets a call learning that his old friend, the disgraced Judge Hines, has killed himself. Okay, triple murder, rich defendant. What's the first thing Schiff wants to do? Cut him a deal.
Always.
Check your messages.
Rothenberg's feeling his oats. I don't expect a call from him.
Lost the dialing instructions on your phone?
I won't shop for a deal, Adam.
He didn't call you. You call him. Get this shit off my desk.
Sarah, do you have feelings about Schiff's like seeming unwillingness to ever like, I don't know, do anything when it comes to going after people?
I love Schiff. Yes, exactly. I love that impression. It's like my mom and I do Schiff impressions all the time. I feel like Schiff, all he wants is to be left to sit alone at his desk and eat a sandwich, and he has never ever gotten to.
Just once. While the mayonnaise is still cold.
Exactly.
So this episode actually was mostly written for actor Stephen Hill, who plays Schiff. The writer Renee Balker says that he loved writing for Hill more than anyone else. Quote, he's one of the actors who calls and asks for fewer lines. And then you give him fewer lines and he asks for fewer words. And then you give him fewer words and he asks for fewer syllables. Man, that seems to track, though, right?
It's just like Schiff, you know? Fewer cases, fewer indictments, fewer convictions, fewer trials, fewer everything, right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Sarah, did you ever notice this, that all of Adam Schiff's old friends are crooked?
Yes. And also, I think a lot of Lenny Briscoe's old friends, like anytime someone has an old friend on this show, you're like, oh no, here we go.
Yeah. No one's ever like, he's my old friend, the car dealer. He could like get you a really great deal.
It's actually a really good pattern. Barbara's old friend is crooked. Olivia Benson's old friend turns out to, oh my gosh.
You just shouldn't have old friends on this show. You have to keep them in your sight line or else they're going to get bribed.
Yeah. Should just call around, check on people.
Yeah.
Just on straight and narrow,
You getting bribed? Good. Okay, bye.
This is the first time, and I believe the only time, we see Schiff come to the 27th precinct. And he clears the room just by standing there. The least amount of syllables possible.
Yeah. Turn this off.
Everybody just get out.
I personally authorized the warrant. How could you? You're a judge, for heaven's sake. Think of your oath.
I thought after 35 years you'd give me the benefit of the doubt.
To hell with that 35 years. You betrayed your office.
To hell with you, Edgar.
If the point is to actually catch the guy, though, and hold him accountable, why tell the cops not to watch and turn off the recording of the actual conversation in which the guy is going to admit that he actually did it?
Schiff even kicked out the defense attorney.
Get rid of him.
Edgar, are you sure?
He's sure.
Are you sure? He's sure.
He's sure, yeah. The judge is like, sure.
Because ultimately the legal system is about what the DA orders you to do, I assume.
Yeah. So, by the way, what judge would not break the law just to get a mortgage of 5%? Today, you could be a serial arsonist and still do better than 5%.
5%, it's so quaint, right?
Yeah. Ray wanted 7% adjustable.
Back in the day where you get a character loan, remember?
Yeah. By the way, what property is he buying in Manhattan? You know, 7%. He still can't afford that.
No.
Getting a condo with those fees.
Getting a manhole cover.
Well, it's like, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to take all my money out of this bank.
Yeah.
You try that power move.
Yeah.
See? Sarah, right? If I go and I say, I'm taking all my money out of this bank, they're say, fine, do you want that in an envelope?
They're trembling.
Yeah, they're like, well, what am I going to do? I just look at all this other money I have in the vault. And I say, that's it, I'm going home, I'm uninstalling my mobile app. Teach you. So we see McCoy and Kincaid, and by the way, like you say, they're just beginning their secret not to be revealed until the end of the season off-camera workplace relationship where the boss is sleeping with his subordinate, and it's beautiful, and do not tell me I'm wrong about that, Sarah, because I'm not.
Oh, I'm not going to.
Good.
Listen, McClare, which is what we called it on fanfiction.net at this time, or not at this time, because I was writing Law & Order fanfiction in like 2002, so like after all this had shaken out, but it was still
Hold on.
It was still a subgenre.
Time out. You just came out of the fan fiction closet like a Murphy bed.
I did.
What did you write about?
Oh, my friend and I
Was it all lovey-dovey?
And we wrote, I mean, I remember reading some like dead serious sort of McCoy and Kincaid love stories. Like, I remember one that I still think of every so often that was like set canonically near the end of season 6. And it was like, McCoy has a cold and Kincaid's taking care of him. And the Italian lady at the grocery says to her, get married, have bambinos, never too late. Like, I still remember that line. From that but my friend and I were we were 8th grade girls. So we were writing just very kind of absurdist, anything can happen sort of farces where like there was one where McCoy gets cloned and then they decide that the fake McCoy is the real McCoy. It's called The Real McCoy.
The Real McCoy. There you go.
And then actual McCoy is disenfranchised and has to prove that he is the real McCoy. It was stuff like that. But I mean, it's so funny to me that as adolescents we would have watched this show because it's so boring. And yet that makes sense because life is terrifying when you're in 8th grade and you need something this controlled.
I would hope that in the upcoming season 21 that there's a scene where McCoy opens like this cabinet and inside is like one of those Mexican saint shrines to Claire with his candles and things like that, and a big photo, and he just like looks at her and moves around a trinket or something like that.
I would love that.
Sighs heavily.
Closes the cabinet. Walks slowly back to his desk.
Maybe he like goes and he's like, Claire, what would you do?
Yeah. And she's like, go easy on the defendant. And he's like, not a chance.
Hang him high, McCoy is back. Okay, so they bring both Peter and Elaine Nicodos into the conference room of truth. And when Peter turns down the offer, he's going to walk until McCoy says,
As for Mrs. Nicodos, I plan to seek the maximum time under the statutes. In practical terms, that's 25 years, but I'll settle for half. Is that what you want for your children, Mr. Nikodos? To visit their grandmother in the geriatric ward at Bedford Prison?
Peter, he's blowing smoke.
It's as if, until this moment, he had no idea that his mother was in trouble, could possibly go to jail.
So his mom's going to go to prison for, like, the loan thing?
Yeah, for bribing a public official.
Okay. I mean, I see that, but I also I clock Peter as somebody who would really care that much about his mom going to prison. I mean, he murdered his brother.
Yes.
Allegedly.
And now he has mommy all to himself. So you can imagine how unfortunate this timing is.
Yeah. Like, finally, I get the attention that I've always wanted. But McCoy goes, is that what you want for your kids to visit their grandma in prison? It's like, well, the other option is their kids come see their dad in prison for a much longer period of time.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
It's like, well, they were never that close. It's fine.
Grandma's going to die anyway.
Do we also believe for a second that he wouldn't have charged him for murder if he had said no to like that whole thing?
Oh, he was going for it.
I know. So it's like that wasn't a real deal. It wasn't a real offer. You know, it just wasn't.
Well, even McCoy knew that getting around double jeopardy would be difficult.
Of course it would.
So, but that's it. By taking a plea, then they don't have to worry about.
I don't buy any of this for a second. These people are so rich, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They could have drawn out this case forever.
That was the plan.
They could have, though. She would be dead well before this thing had been adjudicated. Like, they could have drawn this thing out for years and years and years. They were like billionaires, right?
Sarah, tell Rebecca what she's wrong about.
I mean, I feel like in the real world, you're right. But I think that this is Law and Order world where people, like one characteristic, I think, of people in this universe is that they fold really easily. Right?
Yeah, true. Especially when they're all in a room together. That's when it always happens.
Yeah. Because they're like there's always, you turn the people having an affair against each other by like just being a little manipulative. And I feel like this is a reflection partly of the fact that people do implicate themselves in each other a lot, but it's often under much harsher and more abusive questioning methods than we ever see depicted on this show, because Lenny Briscoe would never. So it just like creates this world where people are like, I give up really, really easily.
Yeah. Can we just talk for a second about the fact that poor gopher dude had to admit on the stand that he was pooping?
Now, when these shootings occurred, you were hiding in the bathroom, correct?
I wasn't hiding. I was busy in there.
I felt so bad for him.
No, he was throwing up.
Oh, I thought he was pooping.
He was hugging porcelain.
Oh, I thought he was doing his business. He had business to do.
Well, he didn't want to say I was vomiting.
Can't handle his Chinese food.
Yeah.
What did he say he was doing? He was like, I was busy, I was working. He had a euphemism for it that was so adorable.
I think he said I was indisposed. All right, let's take a look at the real-life story that inspired this episode. It's time for Rip from the Headlines.
You think you know who did it. You think you know who did it. But you don't know who did it. You don't know who did it. Rip from the Headlines.
This episode is inspired by the case of Harry the Hook Aleman. He was an enforcer for the Chicago Mafia, believed to have killed more than a dozen people who crossed the mob. In 1972, Aleman shot Teamster Billy Logan because the union official was interfering with the gang's truck heists. Defense attorney Robert Cooley opted for a bench trial. Despite 2 eyewitnesses and other evidence, Aleman was acquitted by Judge Frank Wilson. In the late 1980s, authorities investigating corruption within the Chicago court system nicked Cooley. Under pressure from the mob, Cooley passed along a bribe of $10,000 to Judge Wilson to ensure Aleman's acquittal. In 1991, Aleman was re-indicted for Logan's murder and convicted by a jury in 1997. He appealed the case, saying he was a victim of double jeopardy. The appeals court didn't agree. They reasoned that since the fix was during the first trial, Aleman's life or liberty were never actually in jeopardy. The ruling established that bribing a judge wouldn't preclude the defendant from being tried again. In 2010, Harry Aleman died of lung cancer at the Hill Correctional Center in Galesburg, Illinois.
Okay, so the bribe was $10,000. Judge Wilson actually asked for more money, counteroffer, because of the risk involved.
Yeah.
And so in the middle of that probe in 1990, Judge Wilson committed suicide, very much like the end of this episode.
Tracks.
Aleman was the only person in the U.S. to be retried and legally convicted for murder after being acquitted.
Wow.
So should double jeopardy be absolute? Rebecca, what do you think?
You know, I'm all about criminal justice reform. I'm all about defendants' rights or defendants' rights, as Ray Curtis would say. However, I do think if you have fixed your trial and guaranteed an outcome, then you were not in jeopardy to begin with. So how can you call it double jeopardy, right? For either side. I'm saying if the prosecution did the same, then the defendant also did not have a fair shot. So how can we say it isn't true on the other side as well, right?
I think what you're saying makes sense. I'm comfortable saying that I do not know because I am a law and order scholar and not a law scholar. So that makes sense to me. And yet also I think that making double jeopardy non-absolute could be a domino in a way that I'm not aware of. So
true.
Who the heck knows? Well, some people
It's true.
know, but I don't.
I will say though, they get it wrong so many times on the other side. Maybe they're due once in a while. Once in a while, maybe if someone gets away with something, really, there's so many times that they get it wrong and put the wrong person away. You know, I don't know.
So Aleman was charged with killing labor leader Billy Logan. It was believed to have something to do with a mob beef, but Logan was married to Aleman's cousin, who he beat up, and they were in the middle of a contentious custody case. This is Logan doing this. One night, he beat her up, and she said, Harry's not going to like it. And he replied, fuck that guinea.
Okay.
Now, Rebecca, you know that an Italian would not let an Irishman get away with saying that.
Yeah, some Italians would not. I mean, let's be real. That being said, this is a very complicated. It sounds like this is a real Goodfellas type situation.
Yeah. People thought it was business, but it really could have been personal.
It sounds like it was both,
Yeah.
which is a real Goodfellas type situation, or Godfather type situation, where it's I hate you, you hate me. There's also a business thing, so I'm just going to kill you kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's classy. It's all classy. That's what it sounds like to me.
Sarah, wouldn't you love to just take out one of your business rivals? It's not personal.
You know, it's funny because I have at this point in my career that has yet to be appealing to me, but I love mobster movies in a way that is hard for me to explain to people who don't sit around watching mobster movies, because I think they're just, I don't know. I feel like so much of our life in America is just about power and dealing with people who are accumulating power and trying to do that in our own little world. And that's my theory about why those of us who are not in the mob love them so much.
So Aleman was sentenced to, guess how much?
How much?
300 years.
Okay.
Because he was a vampire.
Yeah. he died 12 years ago, but he's still there, obviously.
Yes.
They got to hang on to him.
Right.
In 2002, the parole board denied him parole. It was not unanimous, though. One member voted to let him out. And that parole board member was later charged with trading his vote to get his son a gig as an entertainer in Las Vegas.
Oh, my God.
Will people never learn?
Yeah, that's
Oh my
just embarrassing.
God.
Let your kid survive on his own talent, buddy.
But that's straight from The Godfather, right?
Yeah. It's straight from the first trial.
That's the horsehead situation, right?
An offer he can't refuse, yeah.
You got to get a favorable contract for your boy, yeah.
Yeah.
An entertainer, a Vegas entertainer?
Yeah.
Aim higher, man. Aim higher.
Yeah, really? You're going to break the law so Marvin can dance on a teeterboard in Cirque du Soleil? And that is going to do it for us. We want to thank our guest, Sarah Marshall. Sarah, where can our listeners follow you online?
Oh, you can find me at remember_Sarah on Twitter, because I'm still a fan of that joke. And you can find my podcasts at You're Wrong About. and at YouAreGoodPod. And I hope to see you out there.
And Rebecca Lavoie, how can our listeners follow you?
On Twitter and Instagram, I'm at Reb Lavoie, and listen to Crime Writers On.
And you can track me on Twitter at Kevin P. Flynn. You can also tweet to us at Law & Order Pod, or follow us on Instagram at These Are Their Stories Podcast. Our newsreader was Cy Frater. Our theme music was composed and performed by Uncanny Valleys. Content assistance from Travis Roy. Lily Flynn handles promotions. To get ad-free episodes of These Are Their Stories a week early, sign up for Stitcher Premium. All clips in this podcast were used in compliance with U.S. Copyrights Act fair use exemption for criticism and commentary. Go to lawandorderpodcast.com and sign up for our newsletter for a chance to be our next Law and Order Marathon winner. These Other Stories was recorded in the Yoga Loft above the Bodega in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi studio and is a production of Partners in Crime Media.
Partners in Crime Media.